Johnny and Justin were two simple Imagineers at Disneyland until they dared to ask the question,
Hey Justin, is Disney diverse?
Well, Johnny, I'm not.
Oh no, we've angered the mouse! Stormtroopers, run! Holy crap, it's a gathering of cookies!
Now, from undisclosed locations within the Disney park, Johnny and Justin record a podcast where they seek to answer the question, is the Disney catalog diverse?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Disney+Diversity. I'm Johnny.
I'm Justin.
And on today's episode, we have a very special guest with us. So to give you a little bit of background about them, yoink. So today's guest is an actor, stuntman, writer, and voice actor for some of the hottest properties around. With over a decade of experience in Hollywood, our guest has voiced characters for amazing projects like DBZ Tribute, Secret of Mana, Berserk, Mobile Suit Gundam, Iron-Blooded Orphans, Lupin III versus Detective Conan the movie, Kill La Kill, and most recently, Cells at Work, just to name a few of his many roles. He is also socially active in his community, using his platform to speak out against Asian hate. He also worked with Voices for Change, an organization of voice actors standing solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. He's an amazing, talented individual and a true friend of the show. Please welcome everybody, Darrel J Delfin. Woo! Darrel?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there.
Oh, son of a girl!
Yeah, oh, yes, you did it! He did it! Oh,
Just saw it coming.
oh
Really?
Yes. Oh,
I
yes.
didn't even think about that until the last second. But hi, everyone.
Nice.
I was
Darrel,
gonna
welcome.
come in swinging with the usuals. Hey, guys, what's up? My name is... No. I was like, oh, wait. They did that to me when I first logged on.
It's true, we did. It's a little...
So real talk, Darrel is
Fair
a
enough.
true friend of the show. He's our homie, known him for years, and we love following him on Instagram. Where he will literally record videos like, "Oh hey, didn't see you there," and it's become his catchphrase, and it's so awesome.
Oh, man. I missed you guys. How have you been?
We have been good. We have been surviving, and we are here to talk American Dragon, Jake Long.
Woo! American Dragon!
I want to point something out, a little bit of behind the scenes of our show. When we were discussing this show, me and John were like, what we should do, what should we talk about? We're talking this time, and immediately we were both like, well, we got to do Jake Long, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
But-
The ultimate mashup of Black and Asian on the Disney Channel. I was like, of course I had to go down.
But it wasn't on Disney Plus when it launched.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was not. It was infuriating.
I was thinking about that, too, when it first launched. I was like, I feel like Jake Long should be on there. Oh, wait, no, it's not. What do I do with my life? Whatever. I'm never going to use it.
Oh my goodness. But yes. So before we go into Jake Long, is there anything else, Darrel, that you want to plug right now, discuss before we go into this?
Nothing that you haven't said already. Let's see. On top of everything said, I voiced for Secret of Mana. I'm voice of Guest Jar. Guest Tar. I can't speak to you. I'm a professional voice actor, guys. Legate and Fallen Legion, a couple characters in Fallen Legion 2, which I still haven't been given the green light to talk about yet, which is odd because it's been out for like a month already. DBZ Tribute, Sword Art Online, Kill la Kill, Mob Psycho 100, goes on. And it wasn't until you said a decade in Hollywood that I was like, wait, oh man, I really have been doing this a long time.
It's dope though.
I had to think about that. The date kind of popped in my head and went, whoa. Oh man. Oh shoot.
And one more thing.
Yes.
What is your favorite Disney property, movie, show, attraction at the park, whatever?
It has to be Stitch. Has to be Stitch. When Big Hero 6 dropped, it was a huge like what is it? I don't know, because I really like Big Hero 6. I like the heroes and everything, but I don't know. Stitch holds a special place in my heart. I had a teacher back in, I think it was middle school, that was like, I would draw Stitch all the time. It was like one of the only characters I would draw. And she would go, watch Darrel. Darrel's gonna work for Disney one day, everybody. And I think about that quote a lot. And I'm like, maybe. I mean, it's a big possibility now. Right. In middle school, it was like, whatever. Now, where I am, I'm like, it's not completely out. You know.
So it's possible. You've worked for almost everybody else, so it's like you're almost there. You're almost there. And honestly, Stitch is so dope. Like, I remember the advertising campaign for that when the movie was coming out. I loved it. When
man, with the Lion King and Aladdin.
Yes. Oh. Yes.
Dude. Oh, so good. I love it.
Beauty and the Beast, where they're dancing, he's like crawling on the ceiling. Bill gets all set. Oh, I'm out of here. Beast is like, really, bruh? Really, bruh? Really? You interrupt my date like this, bruh? Like, I was like, Stitch is the man. Stitch is the man.
Stitch took away Aladdin's girl in one of that's the first one I saw. Stitch taking Jasmine away and Aladdin, it's your own movie.
I remember seeing those when I was younger, and I was like, "What? Who is this?" Fun fact, though, totally not taking away from American Dragon. So I remember when I went to go see Stitch for the first time, I told my parents that I wanted to go see it, but at the very same time, the Powerpuff Girls movie came out. So when I got to the theater, my dad gave me the option. It wasn't my mom. My mom didn't go with me, but she sent me with the intention of seeing Stitch. I went and I was like, "What do I want to watch?" The Powerpuff Girls movie. It wasn't until years later that I finally decided to watch Stitch. Yeah. And I don't think it was until it was on DVD or whatever the home video version of that was at the time. But yeah, I picked Powerpuff Girls movie over Stitch.
Hey, seriously, Powerpuff Girls movie was freaking awesome as well. It had some serious like good adult humor in there too. Like, I remember there's that one classic scene where like
A-B-C-D. Hey, God, dang it, you done broke the board plan, dangling consarner.
And then the building all drops in and all there, they're like, oh my gosh! I was like, this movie is genius. So, and again, those are two great choices. Again, those two great choices. You weren't going to go wrong with either one.
You were going to, totally fine. I know it's like a Sophie's Choice situation, but you're totally good. Okay, so going into a bit about Jake American Dragon. I keep doing that. Jake Long, American Dragon. I feel like that's
Dragon.
American Dragon. Jake Long is a Disney animated produced television show created by Jeff Good and developed by Eddie Guzalin and Matt Negretti. I'm going to bring up Eddie again a little bit. There's a hilarious connection between Eddie and our other hobby. But the show itself is set in New York City, and it's about the story of Chinese American Jake Long, who must balance his ordinary adolescence with the power and ability to change into a dragon.
Dragon up!
Thank you. He's of course taught by his grandpa, who I forgot right now. Jake's grandfather doesn't have a name, in the show.
Laoshi.
He just calls him Jimmy.
His grandfather is Laoshi.
His grandfather Laoshi, who's been teaching him how to use his abilities, and of course there are constant adventures of gathering up and helping out different magical creatures throughout the city. He has a dog named Jake. I'm sorry, no, it's not the dog named Jake. His name is Dick. His name is Jake, but the dog is voiced by John DiMaggio, who does play Jake in Adventure Time. And I'm sorry, I can't. Every time I hear Foo Dog talk, my brain's like, right. Right. Jake, no, he's Jake.
Bacon pancakes. Bacon pancakes. Bacon pancakes.
Bacon pancakes.
Bacon pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancakes.
Of course, he also is
sorry.
One of his main.
It's such a great mashup. It's such a great mashup. Oh my god!
One of his main threats in the show is the leader of the Hunts clan, is the Huntsman, who is raising his daughter named Rose, voiced by Mae Whitman. Of course, I will get to voice Jake Long in a second.
It's actually her uncle.
Oh, that's right. My bad. You had been paying attention. That's why we brought you on.
I did just binge this whole entire show in 3 days. So
this guest came prepared.
Yes,
I literally
came prepared.
Yes,
like
sir.
30 minutes ago. No, an hour ago, I just finished the last episode. Last night I was watching it and I was like, no, I can't finish this now. Tomorrow when I wake up.
And Rose and Rose turns out to be a student who also goes to the same school as Jake.
What a coincidence.
And yeah, Jake's got a bad crush on her.
Oh. But the thing about it is though, Rose kind of returns that crush too, though. She's coming to feel that homie's vibe. Exactly. Because he's a player. He's the original player. He holds it down like Trixie be telling him. So there's some reciprocation going on right there. It's kind of dope. It's kind of nice. We got some Romeo and Juliet happening right there.
Mm-hmm.
He of course has survived he's of course surviving at school with his friends Trixie and Spud.
Woo!
And has to deal with his family life, like his father, his mother, and his sister Haley. So I forgot. God, what was this weird thing? This detail. Right, Jake Long is voiced by some guy. What's his name? Is it Dante Bosco?
Fire Lord Zuko?
Fire Lord Zuko.
Wait, do you mean Rufio?
Rufio! Oh! Correct. Dante Bosco plays the role of Jake Long, and for definitely iconic in this show. And I can't help but wonder, like, Darrell, as a voice actor yourself, like, what do you think of when you hear of like Dante's voice acting work, being a Filipino American actor yourself?
I have a lot of stories about Dante because I have hung out. I don't know if hung out is the right word, but I've been around him multiple times, interacted with him a bunch. And I definitely like admire him for all of the work that he does. He has this super passionate, smooth voice, and I love that. I remember the very first time I had ever met Dante, and he'll never remember this because it's just so random. I used to work at a boba shop in Little Tokyo, and he came in with, I don't know, some YouTube singer dude, Asian guy. I don't remember.
AJ Raphael?
Maybe.
Probably him.
Something Vincent, maybe?
Okay.
I don't know. Whatever. The point is, I had my back turned. I was shaking a drink, something that he had just ordered. And then all my coworkers, all girls, they were like, oh my God, it's the other guy. And I'm like, whatever. And then I heard him like, hey, can I get a mango green tea with boba? And I just stopped. I went.
You were like,
Darrell, listen, no. Who is this other guy?
Honor? I'm like, Honor?
Who are you? Because I had just started like really paying attention to actors and like who played them and everything. And so I recognized his voice. I'm like, who are you? Who the hell? So I went up to him and I was like, hey dude, I'm a voice actor. Love your work. Hope to work with you someday. And then I met him a couple times after. I went to a SAC anime. I think it might have been 2014. I don't remember. But he had a table there and I was just helping out with the con. And so he asked me if I could watch the table for him because he had to go run to the restroom. And he had a camera and he was just taking pictures of everything. There was a giant Titan cosplayer. He was taking pictures of that, blah, blah, blah. He goes to the bathroom and I'm sitting here watching his table. Dude walks up and he's like, hi. This isn't his voice. This is just dramatic reenaction.
I got you.
Hi, I love you and Avatar. Can I get your autograph? I'm here.
He thought you were.
Oh my gosh.
He thought you were.
He's like, no, I am not that Filipino. No.
But see, I didn't know how to act at the time. At this very same con, I was partnered up with the Megaforce Rangers.
Right.
So what happened? To quickly jump to the Megaforce Rangers, they had a quick autograph signing and they're passing this autograph like signature print, and it finally got to me. I'm not supposed to do anything, but all of them stared at me and they were like,
are you serious?
So someone out there has not my very first signature, but my first convention signature on their limited edition Power Rangers Megaforce print, and I feel awful about it because I'm not part of the show. And so again, jumping back to Dante Bosco, here I am. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Can you sign this for me? So he hands me this print of, I think it was Zuko.
Mm-hmm.
And I see Dante coming in and he's staring at me and he does this.
No, Dante, really? Oh, that is so awesome.
So I'm here like,
that is so awesome.
No, it's just.
Wow, that is so awesome. That is so awesome. Oh my God.
I'm like, okay. So.
Oh my God.
My third time I've ever really interacted with him was I was working on a short film for Lainey Labens. I don't know if you guys are aware of her name, but she used to be an agent for a lot of the Power Rangers when they do conventions. And she happened to be really good friends with Dante. And so she put out a blast on Facebook one day. It was like, hey, I need help on this short film that I'm doing. If anyone can help me out, please. So I was like, sure, I don't know you all that well, but an opportunity is an opportunity, and I'd like to get to know you better. I walked into the room that day, and I think it might have been Danny. Yes, it was Danny Castellanos, and this is before I had really known Steven Zarita pretty well, ironically enough, and we were all there, and Dante Bosco was there. One of the scenes that we had to do, we are all standing around drinking. And I had to come up with a joke just to like kind of kick off the scene because the scenes basically starts off with everyone laughing. So I go, okay, how do you make an egg roll? He like looks at me confused. He's like, how? You push it. And water shoots out of his nose. You have to cut. We're like, wait, hold on. All right, bring it back. So I did it again. And again, and I just did the same joke. And Dante goes, all right, we got to come up with a new one because it's not as funny anymore. Okay. Don't cancel me, internet. How do you make what's the difference between a snowman and a snow woman? Snowballs. And he like coughed from his mouth. All this water shoots out. Bringing it back to how I feel about Dante Bosco, it is a pleasure to gotten to know him as little as I have. And when I hear him in the show and in any other media, I just think of just the water shooting from his nose. And all the times he is just, go on, sign that thing.
Oh my gosh.
You should have like slipped in a little Zuko after you signed it, just to be like, because you can do it. You're in the voice range. The kid would be like, oh my God.
That's rough, buddy.
And by the way, everybody, we don't always do this, but in the comments below, leave your Dante Bosco story. I'm interested. How many of you have met Dante Bosco?
Like, even if you haven't met Dante Bosco, you've watched something he's in.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
leave a comment.
Leave a comment.
What's your favorite Dante Bosco project? But let's talk about this Dante Bosco project. American Dragon!
From the J to the A to the K and the E.
He's cool like the frozen sun.
NYC, you heard?
Woo!
All right, so
good. Okay, so when this show first dropped on Disney Channel, were y'all watching it back then, or did you catch it later on?
I didn't watch it until a little bit later on, but that's because of like all the reruns. When Disney Channel just like rerun after rerun after rerun after rerun, and that's how I kept catching it. But from what I saw, I definitely liked it. But I think I caught it a little bit around the time season 2 had just started airing, because I had caught both art styles and I was like confused, obviously, as a kid. But yeah.
I first heard of the show. The show came out in probably when I was about ready to move to LA, and I had a friend from college who kind of was making fun of it, so I didn't know the show very well. He's like, have you seen this Disney Channel show called Amrican Dragon? I went, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he's like, yeah, it seems like American Dragon, and he's just like making fun of the theme song. And I went, okay, is this show lame? And I finally caught it a year or two later, and I went, oh, this is a show my friend's talking about. And I caught 2 episodes and went, I'm not gonna tell him I liked it. was like,
I
actually,
would
that's pretty
never.
fun. I'll move on. And I'll catch it occasionally. That's why I was like, I like this show.
Nice.
I just won't tell my friend who got real snarky about it, Johnny.
For me, it came out my junior / going to my senior year of college, because it came out January 2005. And as I've said in this podcast numbers before, when I got to college, Disney Channel was free, and I was like, I am enjoying this. I have never been able to afford to watch these. And so I was there when it premiered, and I remember watching, was like, oh shit. This is like one of the few shows with a minority on here, besides like That's So Raven at the time. And again, it's based in New York, and he's got like a black best friend with Trixie and everything like that. And he's just speaking in hip hop language the whole time. I'm like, yo, I'm fucking right with Jake Long. This is dope. And then as I listened to the voice, I was like, man, that voice sounds familiar. Is that motherfucker's
Who are you?
And I was like, then of course, when I found out Dante B was doing the voice, I'm like, I'm here for all of this. I'm here for all of this. Watch season 1 and season 2 as it was coming out. The same thing as Darrell. Love season 1, brought me into it, love the world. Season 2, when they brought in the director, the art director on Camp Possible came on and changed the art direction of the show. And it just took on a different look, a different vibe for me that wasn't working the same way, because I really liked what they had built in season 1. So, but yeah, love the show. Huge fan of it. And so excited we're talking about it today.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into like okay, obviously it's a little hard to go into plot because we're not going to go through every single episode. I think Darrell can at this point, but
I can.
Yeah.
You want a summary? I can give you a summary.
but like okay, but let's bring up some stuff that we think is like things that are like okay from 2007, 2005, 2007. They're pretty impressive by today's standards, and maybe some problematic storytelling and plots that might not look good in the 2021 vision.
Yeah, Johnny had brought it up a little bit later. It was like, oh, there wasn't really anything like it. There was one show running alongside it at the same time, I believe on Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, whatever. The Adventures of Juniper Lee or something like that.
Yeah, Juniper Lee,
I do remember that show. Yeah,
which really like you focused on like the female side of like the Asian diversity thing. And I honestly, I really like that show a lot, but it doesn't stick in my head nearly as much as Jake Long did. And it might have just been because of the attitude and the personality it just seemed to exude. But yeah.
No, I agree. Because there's like, me and Justin, part of the reason why I crack jokes about it, but there's always, when me and Justin talk about this all the time, there's this weird kinship and connection between Black and Asian culture, whereas like we're always like borrowing from each other, especially when you go to the areas that we're all populated, like New York, LA, and things like that. You see the Asian community really down with like, you know, hip hop and a lot of our culture and whatnot. Black people are always like going to get like, you know, Asian foods and culture like that, but also like you look at the fucking Wu-Tang Clan, it's like, what? It's like, again, like it's crazy. But again, there's always been this connection there. You still see it today with like Black people loving anime and the culture there, and like Black anime characters popping up. But yeah, but Jake Long though, it just kind of capitalized and brought to light like all of that stuff, and that was so dope about it, especially seeing that friendship. Because what always like stood out to me was the plot point of like him, Trixie, and Spud being friends. That diverse friendship right there of these people with different backgrounds. And then when you look at the show, every time they animate a scene where it's a classroom scene or whatever, they make sure to populate with people of different races and backgrounds, even Latino characters, everything like that. Like I was watching the episode with it's like the 3rd or 4th episode with the Dragon Tooth where he's babysitting, and Jake has a crush on Shaquita, and what's her last name? It's like Shakita, like Constant something. It's like Latinx based, and I'm looking like
it was Shaniqua. But anyway, continue. That's besides the point.
But yeah, like it's like, so, but he's got a crush on Shaniqua, and again, it's like we see these interracial relationships, but also again representation of like different people. I'm like, dog, y'all were doing the legwork, and that was kind of dope about it, and I love that aspect of the show they were doing.
There is a episode in season 2. I don't remember the exact episode, but it was the episode with Cupid, and I remember Cupid like flying into Grandpa's shop and just very Hispanic, and I remember thinking, why did they make him Hispanic? Of all the, you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things that was like, all right, okay, cool. Cupid is Hispanic. Awesome. And it's something that kind of just like the fact that it even had to cross through my mind is like, wow, this show was really pushing it. Like diversity at you know what, 2005?
2005, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy because we did the Princess and the Frog episode, and we were highly critical of it. But and part of the reason why we're critical of it is because it's like we know they can do better, and Jake Long is the example of them doing better. It was like where they did the legwork, they did the research, and they like made this like dope diverse casting. It's like it's an example of that. So it's the reason why, again, as we do the show, we hold Disney to the standard. Because like we've seen instances of your greatness. We just want you to be like consistent and do it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, going into the characters of the show, specifically Jake. Let's talk about Jake. Jake, as an Asian American, Chinese American character, I really found him to be really unique. Especially, and here's the thing, right? I think there is a stigma to Asian, to Asian characters, specifically Asian American characters, and I feel like the good news is that they've been doing better at showing that Asian American people could be different kinds of personalities and etc. And I kind of like the fact that Jake was kind of like a Spider-Man. Like he had to balance his home life, his high school life, and his like dragon fighting superhero-ish kind of life, and like he does all that, and it's not like he's not written as what people would assume was a stereotypical kind of Asian American character. He's a little reckless, he's kind of he's a little like narrow-minded. He's got this attitude that's definitely influenced by his outside world, and but this confidence as well. And I kind of like that, like, yeah, that's because not everyone in the Asian American community acts the same certain kind of way you put us in media.
Yeah.
And so when I saw like the first couple episodes of Jake Long, going, oh, that's kind of cool. It's just he's like he's a kid. He just happens to be Asian American, but he's a kid. He's an American kid. That's how I grew up, and etc. Darrell, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I was thinking about this the entire time I was watching the show. Is that they really pushed the fact that he was American the entire show, which isn't a bad thing. Obviously, American Dragon, Jake Long. But the entire time I was thinking, man, they're really not pushing like the Chinese aspect nearly as much as I thought they would. And it's not until like the second half of like season 2 that I really started to see it. Like the final episode, they finally go to Japan. Wow. Sorry guys, I watch a lot of anime. They finally go to China, and I was like, I kind of wish this had happened a little more often. I appreciate what they were going with and how American it was, and trying to see like the diversity that can happen in America. But as far as getting in touch with his Chinese side, I was like, I like it. I wish it happened more though. That's my biggest thing.
Johnny, go ahead. I
agree with you. And honestly, this kind of translates to like I was going to look up later. If you look at the show notes, I put down the writer's room. And the thing about it is, though, when I was looking at this show, I praise it because, again, of some of the things they were doing as far as like diversity. But the thing that kind of like, it's this weird mixed bag because the show is created by 3 white men. Yeah. So the thing about it is that they're only bringing in so much perspective. Then when I looked at the people who wrote on the show, we do get a few like Asian Americans or people of Asian descent who wrote on the show. Like we have my apologies, I might butcher this name. Claude Queen Chang directed only 1 episode in 2005. And then that was then as far as writer, Vince Cheung wrote 2 episodes. Catherine Nguyen wrote 1 episode. And so again, it looks like they try to bring in some like diverse writers a little bit, but that's only 4 episodes. You have 1 Asian American directing 1 episode. 1 guy wrote 2, and then 1 woman wrote 1. It's like, nah, you kind of needed like an Asian American presence there to do that. Because I agree with you, because they do push the whole American Dragon, and we do see it there. But as far as like things coming from like, again, like Chinese culture and mythology, things they could have incorporated in more. No, I agree with you. They kind of like dropped the ball and missed the aspect of that show they could have done better by.
Yeah,
no, I agree, and I'm kind of glad that I'm glad, Darrell, that you actually did watch the whole show. Because I was curious, is like, well, when, because I've only got a chance to watch the first 5 episodes of season 1, and I was like wondering, okay, great, and I'm praising. I started with the praise, like, hey, I'm glad that you made sure, like, like he's American, he's an American.
I'm glad you made a show like this, period.
Right, exactly, but I do, going with off of what Johnny's pointing out, and I was noticing, like, okay, it's like 3 people who are not Asian that are the creative heads of the show. And I'm glad that you were able to tell me that, okay, at some point the show starts going into it, they start talking about it. I'm glad. But you're right, it should have happened early on. And I'm not asking like a giant info dump of it. But
you have 2 seasons worth of like character.
Right.
Sprinkle it,
And especially with especially with home life, right? Like, I think there's a key thing. Okay, yes, you can say that the scenes with his grandpa kind of teeter into that, but that show's made up mythology, which is not the same as actual family growing up and heritage. Like, speaking from my experience of being Filipino American growing up, like, my home life was very mixed of Filipino stuff that just my family does by instinct and just because that's what they do. Yeah. And the American lifestyle I lived in, because this is where I live and this is what the outside world is. So you know, like you'll get those crossed, you know, you'll get those wires crossed, and,
Yeah.
you know, occasionally, like especially when you're going to school, like I kind of, you know, I think most Asian American folks can understand when I talk about the lunch incidents that the lunch that you bring is very different sometimes from the lunch that is brought by your fellow classmates, and you gotta have to sometimes explain what you brought, even if it's something as simple as.
Sometimes you don't even explain. You're just don't even eat it. You don't even look at it. You
That's
just
true.
Kind of,
That's I remember I had to explain somebody Skyflake crackers to them.
I remember I gave someone Skyflakes once, and I was like, "These are so good," and they put it in their mouth. It's like, "Oh, it's just crackers." I was like, "It's not just crackers.
It's just crackers." And Skyflakes are Filipino, like a Filipino cracker, right? And they're like, I think they're delicious. They're buttery.
We'll get you some one day, Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny, I'll hook you some Skyflake, buddy. And go grab peanut butter. But anyway, like the thing is though, it's like that, right? Like you try, like you get a weird look even with a brand it's not even the same as the American brand. So like I feel like the show, I'm not saying that needs to be there every time, but I mean that is part of the regular experience of growing up Asian American, you know, and the show doesn't really do that. And the reason the show doesn't really do that is because, well, it's written by the head writers are 3 guys who are not Asian American, you know. You can make arguments, there's no room for it. He's got to fight trolls and leprechauns.
Static Shock did it.
Thank you.
That was my thought the entire time.
Perfect.
The entire time.
Well said. Well said.
My biggest issue with, like, you said that, like, grandpa, the scenes with grandpa and him teaching at the shop and everything kind of teeter towards that sort of like diversity kind of thing. And you're completely right. But at the same time, that diversity is the kind of stuff that gets stereotyped by Asian Americans today. And I have no issue with that. That's great. I love the Asian kung fu, you know, whatever. That's awesome. But that's exactly the kind of thing when, like, you bring it up to some random uncultured person, you're like, oh, you know, whatever. The kung fu thing is so ingrained in the way that Westerners perceive, you know, Asians. And as much as I love it, just the fact that that's the way that we have to kind of accept that he's Chinese is a little. In 2020, it's a little problematic.
No, I agree. You know, and that's why I mean, like, when I mentioned like the grandpa stuff, my feeling on that isn't so much that like I said, like it's a little bit, but most of my feeling is, but this is like the made up stuff. You know, this is the stuff that you can get behind. Like you watch enough like Hong Kong films, maybe you picked up something, or you read a little bit, or you read enough. I mean, maybe they did their research. I don't know.
Exactly.
But it does come off as like, okay, we're like this, but we're mixing in Western mythology, like you know, like leprechauns and gargoyles and things like that. So you're blending the two, which means that you don't really need to be authentic, which also shows how unauthentic Grandpa's stuff really is. Especially because the way he dresses, the way he kind of like he looks like a stereotypical, you know, like Chinese martial arts master. And it's like, okay, but couldn't he have also looked like just an older grandpa who just happens to know all these things, you know? Like does he have to wear the robe? Does he have to have the Pai Mei mustache? Does he have to, you know, etc.
No, exactly. And this is why it's important to have that representation there, because again, I love this conversation because I'm learning from both of y'all as you talk about this right now. For example, the Skyflakes aspect is like, I don't even know what that is, but now I want some. And
hook you up.
We can do that.
Good luck.
I'm fully vaccinated, brother, in about a month.
There it is. But that's low key goes to the show. The show could have done that. The show could have had a scene where he's like eating something or has something in there that represents his culture that would have taught me about it. Like, oh, cool. Because the cool thing is when you incorporate those things into shows like that, that's how you kind of bring people together, and you also demystify things. That way, when somebody goes to like a lunchroom later on, they're like, oh, I saw Skyflakes and Jake Long. Can I try some? He made it look really good. And that's cool things that happen but they miss out on things like that. Because like I give a lot of credit, for example, like Miles Morales. Because Into the Spider-Verse, because again, like as y'all point this out, have this conversation, like they don't put in enough Chinese culture to the point was like you don't even really know he's Chinese. You could low-key take him out and replace him with someone else with another background, and it wouldn't even impact the show because you don't even know he's Chinese because they're putting that culture in there. Where they could have. They could have dropped, for example, some of the language could have been dope because again, at home, the grandpa would probably be speaking to him in his native tongue. It's like his mom might be speaking his native tongue from time to time. We saw that into the Spider-Verse when Miles Morales' mom speaks to him in Spanish. And what I love about the movie is they don't put that translation there. It's like, no, if you want to know, go look it up. And this is where that audience is going to appreciate that. But again, there's just ways to do it where you kind of like by it and you make people part of it. You share your culture with the world.
Not to like even do it the writer's room thing, but okay, like Susan, right? Susan's like Jake's little sister, and she's like the overachiever. You know, she's the one that's like, oh yeah, like I got these great grades. Look at me, I have zero problems. You know what? If one other thing that would have run up to her brother, if she spoke fluently better than he did.
Yep.
That shit's real.
That would make me feel bad.
And I would relate hard to that. I have cousins who can totally speak Tagalog. I have cousins who can speak Tagalog to me way better. Way better than I can. And then my mom would be like, well, you didn't teach me. You know? Yeah, I mean Haley. Haley, if that's another thing Haley could have just beat Jake got. Like,
extra notch.
Just speaks fluently and like speaks fluently to the grandpa. That would drive Jake nuts, but it would be relatable. We would get it. And it would be something that like is very specific to an Asian American experience, whether you're Filipino, Chinese, Japanese, what have you. We would be like, oh yeah, we have that.
Yep.
Yeah,
I get it. I understand.
I mean,
totally get it.
I mean, to be honest, anybody who's like bilingual, who's an immigrant to this country, like in Spanish American households, that's the same thing because you try to hold on to that language as a key part of your culture. And I will say this though, like I did love the relationship between Jake and Haley. I loved it a lot because again, I love the dual dynamics right there. To kind of go back to when we talk about characters like earlier on, like I love the fact that like to keep it 100. Jake kind of dumb, y'all. Just keep it 100. Jake kind of dumb. She showed that report card. It was like C. I was like, ooh, good Lord. That's like a 1.9. As a teacher, I know that. I did the math on top of my head. I was like, ooh, man, you got to raise your grades up. That's bad. And the thing about this though, but Haley's got straight A's. But the reason why I love that though is because I'm like, it's not stereotypical because a lot of times when like, again, especially when like people aren't part of a culture like white Asian Americans, they write that stereotypical way. And I can speak more to it than I can, but it's like, oh, you're smart, you're good at math, blah, 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 all these negative stereotypes or whatever. But again, it's like, I love that kind of right there. It's like, no, Jake kind of sucks at this, but he's good at other things.
Right.
He's great at music. He's great with creativity. He's awesome with a skateboard. He's like great at these other things. So I did love that aspect of it. It was like, no, he's not. They didn't write him stereotypically. There's like the dichotomy right there. There's a balance in a way. But y'all can go ahead and speak to him more than I can.
No, I think you I think you got it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what do y'all think of the character of Rose and kind of her situation?
I love her.
All right, cut to the bone. What about Rose that you love?
Everything. Okay. I mean, okay, so
you have anything negative to say, Justin?
No, nothing at all. I mean, okay, so Rose is such an interesting character, but she's also very stereotypical as far as like that kind of character goes, like the enemy love interest who then turns later on. And my issue with Rose is that there wasn't enough. That's literally it. Because I don't know, by the time I made a tweet about it, and I know you saw it, Justin, that like by the time I had ended, I was like, man, I'm so invested in Jake and Rose. I need more. And there was already like a lot, but most of it was like Jake fawning over Rose. And that's fine. He's a teenage boy, whatever. But like, I didn't get to see enough about Rose. In fact, there's a detail that they overlooked in the thing. So in one episode, sorry if this is a spoiler for anyone listening, watching, whatever. There is a when Rose goes into her dream world and she discovers that she is not part, like she was kidnapped, I guess, as a child. It says that she has a twin. Skip forward to the end of season 2. No twin, nothing, not even a
We'll wrap up on that.
So season 3. But that's the thing, is like they gave her so many little plot points and so many interesting points about her that would definitely make a great relationship character with Jake and the rest of the cast. And then they're just like, all right, you know, Rose is cool, but she's basically perfect. So we're going to leave her at that. She'll fight dragons and stuff, and then we'll bring her back for the last episode.
See, I think, go ahead.
No, I mean, that's basically it. It's like, I like Rose. I just wish there was more because I feel like they just got to this point where they're like, she's perfect. That's it.
I think the way this got cut down is because I think is the way the show was developed. To give a little background information on that, this show was originally developed to be a live action show about an hour long. It was actually being set up to be kind of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where it was going to be Jake actually having to go after the dragons, what's it called, the Huntsman, going after the Huntsman, who actually the original premise was the Huntsman killed his parents. And he was going after, like, you know, like the beast protecting magic creatures while seeking vengeance. So it's going to kind of be like an Asian American Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And they had all this deep layer, and it was supposed to actually go to Fox. But the executive at Fox, who was going to greenlight the show, who's really down for the idea, wasn't there and had kind of left the company. So they took the picture to Disney, and Disney like, okay, repackaged it as an animated series. And so I think the problem that may have happened is that these guys who are developing this live action series, and if you look at their credits, they all go on to do live action stuff. Like they have a long career in Hollywood, but they're not really known for like doing more animation after this. So I think in a way they did the animation. I think they dumbed it down too much because I totally agree with you, Darrell. There's a lot more world building and like overarching stuff you could have done, because at the same time period where this was coming out in 2005, we also had another series drop at the same time, also a young Dante Basco, called Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is again a great overarching story that could have done that. And even before then, about 5-6 years earlier, you also had another show that did that with Gargoyles, and Gargoyles had their own version of the Huts Clan on there. But they actually gave a global origin for it and everything. The guys with the slash marks across their face. And so the thing about this, I totally agree with you. It's almost like they dumbed it down too much when they realized they were coming to animation, and then they realized like, no, in animation you can actually do bigger shit, because guess what, your budget's almost unlimited. It's all about what do you want to draw in your imagination, so you can actually do more there and have more fun.
Interesting though, I do want to point out one producer
blew
there.
my mind. Sorry, I didn't know it was supposed to be.
I didn't know. Side note, I didn't know any of that either.
Wow.
Like I'm now imagining a world where like this show is the live action show, and I'm kind of mad.
Continue, Justin. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. There is a producer on here, though ironically he wasn't part of the original writing staff. He was someone that Disney brought. His name is Eddie Zalian. And he, interesting enough, there is a little connection. There's a big connection to a franchise that we are kind of known for in terms of discussion and being fans of. Eddie eventually went on to become the head writer of which I sort of see on this show. I was like, you know, I'm like, wait a minute. I was watching, it's like, why is this scene?
Okay. So if you're not familiar with Power Rangers, whatever, it's fine.
It's fine.
MMPR, that's fine. RPM is touted one of the darkest, best written seasons of all time. It's either I love it or hate it. There's no in between. I've never seen an in between. I generally love it, but it is so incredibly well written, and it's one of the best.
Yeah,
so much so.
It's the show that I can confidently say, I know it's Power Rangers, hear me out, I actually think this is literally really good. And I've had a couple of friends who are like, okay, you're right. But it's a hard sell. It's like, I know but just try it.
And to give it just a quick like one sentence pitch, it's pretty much Power Rangers meets Terminator. It's a Terminator in the future after the robots have kind of won. And so it's really, like they said, it's really dark. It's really well written. It's got some great acting in it. And legit, it's got one of the most legit, most diverse Ranger casts we've had. It's got a black lead Red Ranger, and who's actually leading the team, and it's actually really good. So honestly, I highly recommend it myself. It's one of my favorite seasons.
So hear us out. We'll talk more later. We'll help you. All right.
We're not even veering off of the Disney thing because it was Disney. Anyway,
we'll probably cover it in the show, so it's fine.
I mean, no. We actually thought about it. We are doing a Power Rangers episode coming up soon because it was on Disney Channel. So don't worry, Darrell. We gonna call you. We got you, fam. We got you.
I got you.
Okay, but speaking of like let's talk about some other elements of the show that you guys maybe think like is kind of worth noting. Is there anything maybe music wise or something else in the writer's room you're kind of intrigued by, or maybe it's just specific artistic choice or something like that? Like, let's actually even go into the season 2 change. Like that Darrell mentioned.
Here's my thing. After binging seasons 1 and 2, season 2 is infinitely better. Every possible way except for dragon design.
Yeah.
Dragon design is the only thing where I can safely say season 1 was better. But character design, everything, season 2, I really wish whoever was character designer for season 2 had done season 1 also. Because
really?
Yeah.
So they were continuity.
I mean continuity wise too, because I did some research on it like after I finished. I was like, so why did this show end? It's because it just got a whole lot of really bad ratings because no one liked this change from season 2. And it's one of those things that like I really wish that this was it, because the animation style, the fluidity, it just really lended itself so well to the way that the world worked. Everything about season 2 is just better. The writing, man, don't even get me started on the writing for season 1. The first, it's not until they finally go to, I think it's the Dragon Summit the very first time, where the story kind of coherently like is better. It's just like it's written so much better. And the first, well, however many episodes, it's just I can't believe I'm watching this. This is really hard. Oh god, why did you do that? Why is this the thing? Are you kidding me? Oh my god, I hated it. And so as soon as that episode happened, I was like, all right, okay, they finally have their feet on the ground. This is good. The music style, the Jonas Brother version of the theme song is my favorite.
American Dragon. I'm dragging, I'm not bragging, it's my American Dragon. I'm the magical protector of the NYC. You heard? American Dragon.
Really?
I think it has so much more energy and personality than the first one. I like the first one, but I think the Jonas Brother version is better. And even like the little scene transitions, like even before the theme song starts, it'll like go off. That transition doesn't exist in season 1, and that alone is immediately like, wow, this show has a lot of personality in season 2. Season 1 is just like, this could be anything, but season 2 is where I'm like, this is American Dragon.
I did hear. Oh, go ahead, Johnny. No.
I was gonna say I read a review that the reviews and everything like that said the same thing, and I honestly. I watched season 1 and I watched parts of season 2, so that all kinds of blends together for me. But I do remember that the storylines and the writing did get a lot better, and I guess I give it a contribute to like the guy who was working on Kim Possible when he came over, because he actually had an animation background. That's what probably elevated things. But that makes sense though. Again, why it got canceled, because I was wondering the same thing. I was like, Jake Long was a good show. It has all this potential to it, but it's like, well, what made it canceled? But again, I do remember the animation style getting changed was very jarring.
Yeah, as a kid, I was like, that was so jarring to me. I was like, what happened here? Season 1 is the best.
There it is. Yeah.
So I actually heard what might actually been the reason for the style change. And apparently it's from a Q&A that Dante did a couple years ago. So I think someone showed us on TikTok of all places. So the person who made the TikTok, she's like, Dante, I know you're on here. Can you please confirm this is actually what you told us? But apparently it's because when they went to season 2, the issue was that Jake looked a little too young to get into really romantic storylines they wanted to play out throughout the season. Specifically when you put him next to Rose. And that was sort of the appeal for me, was that Jake was a little shorter than most. Yeah. But I can see someone going like, yeah, but he looks like he's like a kid in a show that we saying he's a teenager. So we want to age everyone up a bit to justify these kind of more storylines we want to do.
Right.
So because of that, that's why everyone did the style change. Now, I actually saw the designs, and I do think, okay, yeah, these are kind of better designs. But Darrell, I'm really with you on the dragon design, because the funny thing is, the dragon design season 1, I remember going, that's nice. Not really a Chinese dragon per se, but I'll go with it. Then I saw season 2 and went, okay, so you were kind of going for it, but it's not good.
Yeah. If that's actually the reason that Dante gave, I'm very curious. And I completely understand, because again, that's part of my issue too. I was like, Jake looks way too young here. I appreciate the poppy colors and like the design choices and everything, but I was like, they look too young, and it didn't really hit me until halfway through season 2 that I was like, oh, they're like almost 16. It said they have an episode where Jake gets his driver's license. Unofficially, magic thing, but it's like, oh, we're only like 2 years away from our like driver's license. So I was like, only 2 years. So that means you're like what, 14?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, season 1 doesn't look like a 14-year-old to me at all.
No,
he looks like 12, maybe.
Yeah. In season 1, he does say that he's 13 because he talks about that's when he got his dragon powers. But I can see that. And to be honest with you, that was the thing that got me too, was the dragon design, because I remember first watching it, I was like, okay, he's a dragon. But again, like you said, he's not a Chinese looking dragon. But then when they do give the Chinese dragon design, it's like, that ain't good though.
Yeah. Okay.
Not
so
like appealing.
My understanding
it's hard for me to cheer for him now.
My understanding of it was, I forgot who had told me or if I had read some interview, but someone said that season 1 Jake Long represented a dragon that was already strong, and he wasn't there yet, and so they decided to make him a little bit lankier, a little bit more fluid, as if he was still in training. And I was like, that's fine, but he still doesn't look good. Like even in the back end of season 2, every time he transforms, like, oh man, just the way he moves his mouth is just weird. Something about it is just off to me. And the worst part is, even in the logo, the dragon design doesn't change. It's still the first season dragon. Yeah.
And to be honest,
that's an interesting.
Sorry, my bad. So, to be honest, like I was really split about like him being you having the original dragon design, because again, it's not a Chinese dragon, but they do establish that he is biracial. And so that's the reason why I saw as well, because when the grandpa transformed to like a Chinese dragon in season 1. It's like, all right, cool. But when Jake transformed, it was like, well, he is half like European American now. So I was like, so he is kind of so because he's biracial, I'm like, okay, I really can't be mad at this. It's just another part of his culture. It's a new type of thing. But yeah, so that was the reason why I didn't get that upset with it. But again, I was kind of split on at the same time.
I mean, like, is that something they said in the show, that is that kind of like canonical, that because Jake is we have kind of forgot to mention Jake is biracial, so his dad is white and his mom's Chinese, so it's like but like is that a reason why they mentioned like why Jake's dragon season 1's buffed out a little bit?
Never mentioned at all. Listen, man, there is a bunch of characters that show up in season 2 that their designs completely change. There is a mermaid in the last episode of season 1 that shows up again in season 2. Only this time she has blue hair, blue skin, everything. And it wasn't until she mentioned her fear of water that I was like, oh, you're the same character.
Oh,
that's bad.
What?
Oh my gosh.
There's also another character, General Chang, one of the main villainesses of the series, where she's like this old, I would even almost say borderline black design, black character design, and they completely changed it. She was maybe like just a little bit taller than Lao Shi, like Jake's grandfather, and then in season 2 she's like Jessica Rabbit sized.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was like, what? Who are you? Because so when they first show her up, they're like, hey, you see anything familiar? This is Food Dog. This is my Food Dog impression. Hey, Jake, you see anything familiar in this picture? And he's like, oh man, just a bunch of ugly. And I was like, who is that? And then they said Chang. I was like, wait, Chang from the last season? What? That is not her. No. So again, I don't know what prompted all these choices. I didn't mind if it was like, oh yeah, he just looked too strong. But they changed everyone, which again, in retrospect, from like a diversity standpoint, I think is great. And I really wish that was like season 1.
Right.
But to a kid, that's like, who is that?
I mean, no, I watched it as an adult. It was in 2005. I was literally about to graduate college, and I was like, ooh, this is jarring. Can't do it. Nope. Not the beer pong.
I feel like if the design changes were a factor of the cancellation of the show. I mean, yeah, that was a big mistake, especially with the way you're describing Darrel, where it's like, if the kids can't identify a character that was clearly there from the other season, and that's the whole point, you're bringing them back to kind of do some continuity, and the kid, and you as a grown-up, as an adult who's watching this now, are going, who's that? That's a mistake.
Yeah,
that's a big screw up. If you're gonna redesign, you have to redesign where they are familiar to who they were last season before you go into any further changes or justify the change choice of in story. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I understand. It's just continue, Johnny. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So before we wrap up and we go into our ranking and everything like that, the one thing I did want to praise, well, one I want to talk about two of my favorite characters were the twins. The twins cracked me up. It's like the happy one is always going to tell you something negative, and the depressed one's like, "You're going to get this Xbox for Christmas." Whoop-de freaking do. I'm like, I love this. It was so hilarious. So I low-key like those two characters. But one thing I got to praise the show before we go into our ranking, they did a good job of the casting. Like when I went through a look at the cast, show, they mashed it up, like like diversity wise and racially and everything like that. Like Jake is voiced by Dante, again, somebody of Asian American background. His mom is voiced by somebody of Asian American background as well. Let me go through their names real quick and give them their due propers of respect. So Yoink, so we got Dante doing Jake. We got as his mom, that is Lauren Tom, another actress, Asian American actress. She's dope as heck. And then as his grandfather, we got Keon Young, who's doing his grandfather. He's super dope and everything like that. And then Trixie's being voiced by Kitty Kaboom, a radio personality, again, a black woman, which is super dope and everything like that.
She was also on Winx Club, or not Winx Club, Witch. I don't know if you guys remember that show.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's her.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
The only place they kind of dropped the ball at was with Jake's sister.
Yeah.
Mainly that aimed by Amy Bruckner, which is like, y'all couldn't get a young Asian American actress
to voice his character.
Yeah. So they did. It's like that, like a 95% success rate right there.
Yeah.
They kind of dropped the ball with that one, but otherwise they did get that casting. So yeah. But with all that said though, let's get into the ranking. So as y'all know here on Disney+Diversity, the whole thing is we rank the Disney catalog, see how diverse and inclusive it is, by ranking it as either woke, means doing a great job, is being progressive, pushing things forward, or waking, like it's kind of doing some stuff, but it drops the ball in some areas, or sleep as shit, which is like, this is problematic. All right, so we'll be right back after this.
But when I it's crystal clear, but now
Oh, Bobby. Oh, Bobby. Wow. Hey! You get your own movie.
What's up, everybody? And we are back with our rankings. So as you know, we rank things as either woke, waking, or sleep as shit. Okay, everybody. So we're gonna put we're gonna show our camera our rankings on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Dragon up.
Oh, I'm backwards.
Hold on. Don't worry, you'll be good. Oh wow.
How do I don't know how to flip me.
No, you're actually you're not backwards.
Oh my God.
We can see it.
Oh,
I
cool.
can see it. Look at that. That's good.
That's
I
awesome.
I love that you drew Jake. I just drew Dragon up.
Dude, this is so bad. Like you drew Dragon. I drew just like a head, try to spew fire. Wait, no, that's the fire. That's his body. Like, oh, this is just bad. I feel so. Oh gosh, this is terrible. This is terrible.
All right.
This show is woke as heck, yo.
Okay, so I guess I'm the odd man out here. I can go first. So I gave it a waking. The reason why I gave it a waking is because while I really do appreciate a lot of the things we praise for it. One, you had diverse casting happening, which is dope. So we had a diverse cast. I think it did a really great job of just like putting an Asian American character on screen who's not stereotypical. Like the thing about this was that he's different. He's into hip hop. He's skateboarding. He's dumb as hell. But yeah, he's trying. He's trying though. Get that GP up though, Jake. But the thing about this was that like they did a good job. But the reason why I gave it a waking is because when it came down to it, like all those points that y'all brought up about like, how do we know he's actually Chinese? None of those Chinese like heritage is like really represented there on screen. And so by 2005 standards, it was a good first step. It was like by today's standards, like, no, dude, you got to incorporate that stuff in and bring that in because that's how we really truly come together as one people. I think really a lot about what's happening right now with like, sadly, like the Asian hate stuff and everything. And a lot of it comes from like fucking ignorance and everything like that. And the thing about it is though, if you have friends, if you know people who are part of the Asian American community, you realize like, no, those are just fucking hate crimes. That's some fucked up shit. And whatever that orange agent was spewing was just fucking hateful, toxic stuff. And so when I think about all that, I'm like, this shows like this, when they actually bring in that aspect of like Chinese culture and educate people and bring this in, you're actually diffusing stuff and really help us all come together as one. That's why it's really important to do that work. So that's why I gave it a waking. It's doing a lot of great stuff. I love Trixie. I love like all the things they're doing, but you need representation in the writer's room. because when you put those diverse writers there, it leads to work in other places too. So when you give those Asian American writers a chance there, they're going to work on other stuff. Because one of the things I pointed out, sorry to go so long, y'all. One of the writers on the show, I put in our show notes. Her name is Chris Nee, and I'm not sure y'all know who Chris Nee is. Chris Nee. Oh, well, okay, sorry. There. So Chris Nee went on to create Doc McStuffins, one of the biggest like kids shows of all time. And so Chris Nee, this Irish American white woman, got her start there, but then boom, look to the career she has now. And some of those other writers the same way. So it's like if you put Asian American writers there, they could go on to bigger things. They get more diverse shows, more diverse representation, so on and so forth. So that's the reason why I give it Waking. It's doing some dope stuff, but it just could have fixed those things to be even better.
And that's fair, Johnny. And I think that's a good point, especially with the writers' room thing. Like I know, like one example will be like Jessica Gao, who's currently the showrunner for Marvel's She-Hulk. She got notoriety because she was one of the writers of Rick and Morty, and she wrote I forgot what episode she wrote specifically Rick and Morty, but it's the episode that literally won an award. And so
there you go. Yeah,
because of that, she was working on a very popular show that didn't have anything to do with her heritage, but she proved she's a good writer, and so she got notoriety from that show. She was able to get a pilot from that show that was supposed to be about Asian American experience. It sadly didn't get picked up, but because of the work that they made a pilot, that they got a pilot, that she got an award, Marvel looked at her as like, okay, do you want to do, do you have something for She-Hulk? And she had something boom for She-Hulk, and they're getting ready to film that now. So you're right. This leads to this leads to this could lead to next great things. The reason I gave it woke, and I'll say it's like a mostly woke.
Yeah.
It's a mostly woke. I think what your points are spot on, and they're great. But I think there's so much I give to the show on really creating Jake as a lead and showing us that like this is the kind of this character who just happens to be Chinese American. Is all the things you've mentioned, John. He's relatable, etc. It doesn't, like it's one of those things where I hope that kids who watch this show like Jake because Jake is likable, and there's no barrier that they have to think about, or I won't understand him because some sort of cultural thing. No. But that would have helped if they sprinkled in enough, actual American Chinese, like upbringing in there. But I still feel like I'm giving them kind of like a passing curving grade because that's still important. The amount of work they went, hey, why don't we make the lead character Asian American? Like that's the first strongest step to the right direction, and then avoiding any stereotyping you could have with his characterization is another further step. And on top of that, you made sure at least, even though Dante is not Chinese American, he's Filipino, you still went out of the way to go, but we are casting.
Yeah.
Making sure we're casting someone who's of Asian American descent.
It's kind of like the Raya thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Raya thing for sure, which we'll definitely get into more when we do our Raya episode. But exactly, Darrell. So I gotta. It's a little wig. It's like kind of like this,
Yeah.
Well, it's like, hey, drag it up. Darrell.
I gave it woke because for what it is, I think it hit the mark on every level except for casting, really. But that's a whole other discussion that we can or can't have. Elaborating on both of your points, because they're both valid points completely. My thing is that, Justin, you said that you hope kids will like him because he's a relatable character. My thing is that I hope they like Jake because he's Jake. And the thing with you, Johnny, is that you said that you were hoping that you'd see more relatable things about his Chinese heritage and all that stuff. And while I agree 100%, everyone is different. And I think that's the biggest part, is that he could literally be any other person. There is a person out there that lives exactly like Jake that barely touches upon their Chinese heritage, whatever. And that will resonate with someone. It's one of those things that like everyone is very different, it's like, I'm gonna bring voice acting into this really quick. When people watch English dubs, for example, people always say that like they don't sound like their characters, they don't sound like that should be them. But then there are a billion other people out there that sound exactly like them. We are people that sound like them. And so relating that back to like the character, there are people exactly like Jake, you know, that aren't nearly as Chinese as they are, but they have all these Chinese heritage stuff happening around them and whatever, you know. And I think that's the best part about it. And like, I hope people will like Jake because he is Jake rather than he is relatable. You know, I do hope people find him relatable, but it's fine to like look at a person that you might maybe call a friend and be like, yeah, he's okay. Yeah, I like him. You know, Justin and Johnny are all right people. You know, I like them. They are who they are. You know, that's also a very me take. So I take that as you will. But yeah, that's my biggest thing. The show just exudes so much personality. And when it does hit on the Asian notes, it really hits on the Asian notes. The casting obviously could have been better. As much as I love Dante Bosco, I'm sure there's another Chinese actor that could have been able to do exactly what he did.
Right.
But who knows? It was 2005. Who really knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like the show for what it is. If this show is made today, oh man, there's a lot that would not make it into the show. There's a lot that would have to make it into the show, or it would get hashtag Twitter canceled.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so, you know, for what it is in 2005, woke.
Yeah.
To be honest, like I hope they kind of revisit it someday, and they revisit it. They do that live action they were talking about originally. Because I feel in today's like streaming platforms, there's like so many things out there. This would be a really good time to do that.
Yeah.
Like, because you know Disney. Justin, I said the D word.
Wait. We've been saying the D word the whole time.
No. Oh shoot. Justin. Justin. I might have to go back to the closet, Justin.
That's fine. That's fine. Hey, Darrell, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. We really appreciate it.
What's going on?
So I'm so sorry, dude. But we have to don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Darrell, don't forget to follow Darrell.
Johnny, okay?